Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video I thought it'd be really fun to share 7 top tips for new kill team players. Since the Into the Dark box set came out, I've been having a great time with Kill Team. This new setting in the Gallo Dark is perfect. Being aboard the Space Hulk is just awesome. I used to play Space Hulk and Space Crusade as a kid on my Commodore Amiga, and this is bringing back all that nostalgia. So really enjoying playing it. And so I thought in this video I would share with you 7 top tips to help you pick up the game and get started with it. Now, I haven't been playing by the rules for almost a year since it came out. I quickly got fed up with a few parts of it, but I've got over those issues now, and I'm really glad I've given it a second chance and been playing the rules by the book. I've not been homebrewing it at all, been playing it exactly as written, and I've got to say, it's an awesome game now, really enjoying it. So hopefully this video is going to help you to have as much fun as I am with this new game. Okay, let's get right into it, and we'll start with tip number 1, and this is to start with a simple kill team using your favourite models. Now, I found the rules in kill team can be quite dense. There's lots of layers to them, and when you start adding in a complicated kill team, you've got a lot to think about. Strategic ploys, tactical ploys, tac ops, equipment, abilities, all the different operatives, sometimes up to 10 different ones. So with all that in mind, when you first start playing the game, that's quite a lot. And that's what put me off when I first started playing. I really wanted to recreate something like Warcry, where I could have lots of different kill teams, like I did with the Warcry warbands, and then play lots of different games in a kind of pick up and play scenario. But I found with kill team, you have to invest a bit more time in it. You have to play it more often, keep on top of those rules, and really learn your kill team before moving on to the next one. But there's ways around it. You can start with something a little bit easier. So some of the ones like the Death Corps of Krieg, the veteran guardsmen, they can have so many different operatives. You don't have to play all those. You can just choose to play them as regular veterans and then just throw in 1 or 2 of the special operatives and use the special rules for each of them. That's one way of doing it. But something that's really worked for me is using the Intercession Squad rules, which are quite new, and they came out just around the time that Into the Dark was released, and this has changed the game for me. And it also made me be able to use the models I already had and loved. So here's my Imperial Fists, and I just grabbed some from my 40k army. Here's some of my Intercessors, and I also wanted to use some of my Eliminators, but the bases were a bit bigger than the rules stated for the Intercessors in Kill Team, which didn't really matter that much, but I thought it would be cool to take these models and also one of the Assault Intercessors that I was using, and then build something completely unique specifically for Kill Team. So I grabbed a Intercessor box from scratch, built 5 of the models, all with the bolt guns or bolt rifles, and I used some of the sniper bolt rifles from my Eliminator pack that I had spare, and I'm going to use those as proxies for Stalker bolt rifles. And then I just used one of my Assault Intercessors that I had spare from another kit and put together a 6-man team. Now, the rules for these Intercessors are a lot easier than some of the other kill teams, and so if you download the Intercession Squad kill team rules like I'm showing you on here, it really is simple. As you go through it, the tac ops, there's not too many to look at, and you don't need them if you're playing open play anyway, unless you want to use them. Then you've got the abilities, and so you can just choose 2 of the abilities here for your kill team. And then the data cards are actually quite similar. When you're using the bolt rifles, the stats are very much the same. The sergeants are a little bit different, and as you can see, I just flicked past it, but here you can see there's a lot more weapon choices. But once you choose those weapons, you've only got to worry about 2. So I've got the Power Fist, and I've also got the bolt rifle for my Intercessor Sergeant. And then as you go through, you can choose between Assault Intercessor Warrior, and then you can have 1 Assault Intercessor Grenadier, and then for the Intercessors you can have Warriors, and then you can have 1 Gunner. So as you look at these Warrior and Gunner stats here, again very similar. You're attacking with 4 attacks, your ballistic skill and weapon skills are 3+, and then the damage is very similar too. And there's only a few special rules. There's not that many critical hit rules, and the abilities are super simple, as are all their characteristics. Movement 3, APL 3, you're only activating one at a time, and then your defense and saves 3 and 3 plus with 14 wounds. Nice and simple. And so when you've only got 6 models to think about and all the stats are quite similar, it makes it really easy to play them, so you don't have to worry that much about their rules and you can concentrate on the rules of the actual game, which I think is brilliant, and that's really helped me. And as we go through, you don't even need to use equipment. And so, yeah, I think for me, the Intercession Squad changed the game alongside Into the Dark. And, the temptation might be to look at the chart here that you can see that rates the win percentages for the kill team. So you might think, I want to go for one at the top, the Novitiates. They've got a 62% win rate, so that might be cool. But for me, I want to go with something that I enjoy playing and that's not too complicated. So if you don't want to go with loads of operatives, then just pick something like the Intercession Squad, or even use something out of the Compendium. Even though the Compendium kill teams are being replaced by all the new ones, like the Blooded, Pathfinders, Phobos Strike team, they're replacing some of the ones from the Compendium, and it did say in an article recently that there's going to be a lot more coming out that will be doing the same thing, so eventually that Compendium will be phased out, but we can still play it. So I'm going to do an Imperial Guard kill team from it for my Catachans, and if they're not that good, does it really matter if I'm not winning all the time with them? As long as I'm enjoying myself, having fun, and using the models I like, then I think that's really cool. And the Compendium is often a lot simpler than these newer ones. So that's my first tip, and I think a really good way to start playing the game, by allowing you to have quite a simple kill team so you can focus on the rules of the game, learn those first, and then you can start adding in more complex rules for the kill teams you play. If you haven't picked up your copy of Into the Dark yet but would like to, or any other hobby products, please check out my sponsor Firestorm Games. I'll put a link to their website in the description down below where you can save up to 20% on all your hobby products. They've also given me a code to share with you where you can save an additional 5%, and that's down there in the description too. That runs out the end of September though, so get in quick if you want to make that extra saving. It'd be awesome if you check them out, because you don't only support them, but you also support the channel, as I get a small commission from every sale made. So if you do have a look, thanks so much. I really appreciate your support. Alright, now we're on to tip number 2, and my tip number 2 is to ignore the shapes. So I did a video, Let's Talk Shapes, where I went through it. I had an almost year-long hate of these shapes. It put me off the game completely, but I'm over it now. And so I did a little poll, and thanks so much if you joined in the poll on YouTube, and I just asked whether you love or hate them, and the results came in, 58% hated, 42% loved them. So, it's not as big a divide as I thought it might have been, so that it's not that bad. And now I'm playing it often, and I'm sticking to the rules, and I'm not trying to convert the shapes into inches, and I'm not even worrying about the shapes, to be fair. It's a lot easier, and it makes a lot of sense once you stop thinking numbers, stop thinking inches, stop even thinking shapes, and then just focus on colour. That's when things start to get really intuitive and easy, and then you're not trying to convert the colour to a shape to an inch in your head when you're reading the rules. You're simply going by the colour and then using your combat gauge, and it's just made it so much simpler. So yeah, at first, put off by this. Intuitively, it didn't make any sense. You've got 6 inches, but you've got a pentagon with 5 sides. All that was confusing. I put this together, which I thought made a lot more sense to do it like this. But to be honest, you just got to get over the shapes, over the numbers as well, and then just think colours. And when you start thinking colours, things run a lot easier. So that's my tip number 2. Right, now we're on to tip number 3, and this is to practice against yourself using the same kill teams. Something I did when I first started playing was to try and play 2 different ones. I was trying to play the Deathgore Krieg against the Orc Commandos, and there's a lot of rules for each of those kill teams. So trying to learn both of those sets of rules while trying to learn the rules of the actual game, and then practicing on my own, it just wasn't working. It wasn't happening. And so once I decided to come back to it and try the rules again, I said to myself, I'm not going to do that. So what I've been doing is using the same kill teams. So I've took my intercessors from my Imperial Fists, and then I've got the Imperial Fist, which I've painted in Raptor colours, and then I'm played the 2 against each other, because then I'm only have to worry about one set of rules. I've got the identical operatives on each side, and then I can really get to grips for their rules and almost learn it off by heart quite quickly, and then focus on the game rules. So that's really helped. That's probably something that's got me playing it a lot quicker than certainly when I first started, when the game came out with the Octarius set. Another thing I did was just focus on the terrain, because a lot of the terrain rules affect the game in a big way. It's a big part of it. And so I set out different maps using different pieces of terrain, and then I used those 2 kill teams against each other again, just learning how the different terrain works in the game. So I've spent quite a bit of time on this, and it's time well worth spending. You've got to invest some time in kill team to learn it properly, and that's something that I failed to do when I first started playing. I was treating it like Warcry. It's not. Totally different. And I'll do another Warcry kill team comparison video soon, because I think that would be quite fun to do, because now that I've given it another go, I'm seeing it in a whole different way, and so I think that's going to be an interesting video to do soon. But yeah, try different terrain, really learn those terrain rules, and I think Into the Dark is really helping, because you haven't got to worry about vantage points, and most of the terrain is heavy, so it's going to have the same rules, so that's really good too. I think this is changing things up big time, and I think I'm going to also do another video where I just focus on Into the Dark and my thoughts about playing it so far. Now we're on to tip number 4. So you've been practicing on your own, you've got used to the rules, now it's time to play as often as you can against as many people as you can. And this is going to be great fun, because you're going to get to go against other kill teams now. Nothing wrong with having a look at the rules to have an overview as how your enemy might play, but also fun to have a surprise and don't look at how they're going to play. So when you come up against them, it could be quite interesting, and then you're really on the back foot and you don't know what to do. So I think that would be a really interesting way to go about it, but it is tempting to have a look if you've got their rules and see who you're going to be playing. But yeah, playing as often as you can against as many people as you can across different boards is a really good way to go. You kind of figure out what rules you're getting wrong, you can help each other, give each other tips, advice, and try out all different boards and stuff. So really fun. And then of course the social aspect of the game is huge. That's something I didn't have when Octarius came out, but now playing at my local game store every week, it's just changed the game, the hobby in fact, completely for me. I'm enjoying it so much more. So definitely get out there, get those games in, and meet new players who are as excited about playing the game as you are. Number 5 is don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I think this is something that I've never been afraid to do, really. I've been in business self-employed for over 20 years now, and I've made so many mistakes, but from those mistakes I've learned so many things that have helped me. And I think if we can apply that to what we do in our games, it's going to be the same thing. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. It really doesn't matter. It's the only way you're going to learn, and then, as long as you don't make those mistakes again and keep repeating it, then it's cool. I mean, it's no problem. But I make mistakes all the time on the channel. Just the other day I was talking about the kill team balanced data slate, and there's some rules on there that came out on the previous data slate, but I hadn't remembered it, or I didn't check it, and so I was reading things out as if they were new, but in fact they've been out for what 3 months now. So, but again, if you're new to the game, you're not going to know that. And me coming back and playing the game as a new player, that's how I treat myself now, as a new player to the game. I think you're not going to know about all these things, so you're going to make mistakes on your journey to learning them. And the same with the intercession squad. I made a huge mistake with this. With the abilities, you can see that you've got different sections here. Now, I read it as you choose 2 sections. So I was taking this section and this section, for example, and having 6 abilities, when really you just pick one, like the gene wrought resilience, but then choose one of the abilities in bold from it. So it's either unyielding, durable, or hardy. Whereas I was taking all 3 and thinking that was one selection. So I totally messed that up. So this is going to happen. It's just funny. It doesn't really matter. We're not playing in competitions. We're just having fun. But again, once you realise you've done it wrong, don't do it again next time. That's the key. And another mistake we made when we were playing was with a tactical ploy. The reanimation protocols. We know that's like no command points now, so that's great. But because it was no command points, we were using it a lot. So my opponent was like reanimating every single Necron that had been taken down. So, that was wrong. We can only use the tactical ploy once per turning point, except for the reroll. So, once you learn it though, you're not going to do it again. So expect to make mistakes. And there's a great quote that I always think about. If you don't make mistakes, you don't make anything. That's by Joseph Conrad. And I think that applies to all aspects of life, but certainly into the games. So, we're trying to have fun. We're trying to learn the game. We're going to make mistakes along the way, but it doesn't really matter. And there's another quote. He says, it's only those who do nothing that make no mistakes, I suppose. A bit snarky from him, but, it's a lot of truth there for sure. Now we're on to tip number 6, and this is to layer up the rules. So I think you don't have to start playing all the rules at once. You can start with like simple open play for sure, definitely do that, and then start building up. You don't have to worry about taking in your equipment then, you haven't got battle honours to worry about, and a lot of the things that come into the narrative aspect of the game, and so you can just do that nice and slowly, and then when you're ready, start a narrative, add equipment, and then build up that way. But the same with the strategic and tactical ploys. In the first few games, we didn't use those, so we just kept it really simple and just used what was on the data cards, and then also the basic abilities that came with the different kill teams as well. So that really helped. And then once we got into it, we started adding the strategic ploys, adding the tactical ploys, and then going from there. And again, you could start off with the simpler operatives, especially if you're playing veteran guardsmen, go with just the basic operatives and then start introducing more and more of the specialists to have more abilities in game that way too. So I think that really is a great way to start. If you've never played before, don't worry about trying to do everything at once, just build up slowly. And that brings us to tip number 7, review your games. And so once you've played a game, I like to take down some notes, get feedback from my opponent, what was good, what did they enjoy the most, was there anything they think that wasn't quite right, and then just take the notes down, and then you can look at that later on, check the book at home, and go over it again, preparing yourself for next time. So looking at what worked, what didn't work, that's a great way to go. Did you set the terrain up properly? Was there something you missed out? One game I played was the airlock game, for example, and I didn't notice in the first time I played the airlock that the doors are locked and you can't actually open them. So that was a big miss there. But in the next time we played it, we made sure those doors were locked. So we played them as locked, whereas the first game we played them as unlocked. So little things like that is just all part of the process. Then it's what rules weren't you solid on? So was there a rule you weren't sure about? You were playing it, but in the back of your mind you're thinking, that doesn't seem right. So again, go home, check the rule later, have a look in the books, go online. Reddit's really great for people helping each other, so I can definitely recommend that. And also, you can just add a question on my videos. I'm doing little short videos on YouTube now and Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and TikTok, so you're going to see me everywhere, and then there's going to be little short videos where you send in a question for a rule and then I'll do my best to answer it in a short 1-minute video, so look out for those. And then you can also look at what improvements can you make for next time. So can you play differently, can you add a different operative, things like that. But mostly just getting those rules right and making sure in the sequence of play, certainly in the beginning, you're going through those steps in the open play sequence properly. And ask for help, and this is really important. If you're in a little club or you go down to your local game store, there's always going to be someone who's happy to help, take you through the rules and ask any questions you've got. So yeah, always ask for help, and again, if you've got any questions, you can always ask me too. It wouldn't be a top tip video without a bonus, and my bonus tip is to have fun. I think with Kill Team, there is this thing where you can be maybe a little bit more competitive, or at least I'm finding that. I'm finding I want to win more than I do in Warcry. In Warcry, I almost don't care because it's all fun and narrative. But in Kill Team, I find I want to win a little bit more, but I was just finding that balance between wanting to win, but enjoying yourself and having fun and not worrying if you lose. And so you don't want to become a total rule hound where you're worrying about every little thing to get an advantage, or you going crazy over that. I think for me, the narrative is the best part of these games, any tabletop skirmish game, and I really want to enjoy myself, whether that means losing or not. Obviously winning is much better, but in these games it's more about setting the scene and letting the story unfold on the tabletop, and that's what I really enjoy. So have fun, and at the end of the day, you've spent a lot of money on your set, you've got it ready, you've unboxed it, you've had to prepare it all, get the terrain painted so it's ready to go. You've got all your combat gauge painted. You've done it in your maybe faction colours like I have here. and then you've done all the little barricades as well to match in with them, and then you've gone through all the rules for your kill team, you've painted your kill team, got them ready to go. So, you know, you want to go and have fun and not worry too much, certainly about making mistakes, definitely about losing, but just have a good time and, you know, get those models you spent all that time with on the tabletop and let the stories tell themselves. If you haven't seen it already, I've got a complete how to play rules series for Kill Team up on my channel, and that includes some updated videos for the Into the Dark, Gallowdark rules. So that's going to give you all the close quarter rules, hatchways, all that kind of thing. So that's all there for you to watch. So hopefully that's going to help you to start playing as well. And so you can use that alongside reading the book to see the rules actually being played out on the tabletop. So yeah, they're up on the channel already. I'll link to them at the end of the video and also in the description down below. So hopefully that'll help you to start playing quickly too. But that's it. That's my top 7 tips for new players to Kill Team, and I really hope this has been helpful and you've got something from it. If you've got any tips, I'd love to hear about it, so let us all know in the comments section below. It'd be great to read what you think. But for now, thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, please hit that like button, subscribe for more videos like this one, and don't forget to hit the notification bell too to join me here next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'd like to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters who make these daily videos possible, and if you're interested in joining the community, it'd be awesome to see you there, and I'll put a link for that in the description down below.